Thank you to Mocha for sponsoring this video. When Mocha reached out to me to create a video like this, I was really excited to do it because I've been really enjoying using Mocha's products. I just had a conversation with Nick, the founder and CEO of Mocha, which is one of the fastest growing AI app builders. I had three really great takeaways from this conversation. One, you're going to learn the absolute best practices of how to use Mocha, and this can be applied to other AI app builders as well. Two, you're going to learn Nick's philosophy around AI and how it applies to vibe coding. He's one of the best people on the planet to talk to about this topic. And three, you're going to learn about how to think about what products to build with vibe coding tools. Now let's jump in. I'm here with Nick, the CEO of Mocha. Nick, what is the opportunity for people who haven't used Mocha before, and what are they going to learn by watching this video?
Hey, Seth. So the opportunity is that it's basically a lot easier than you think today to make things, to make like whether Medium is a web app, Instagram made everybody take good pictures. Like now everybody could make good web apps and few people know this. And so the hardest thing is just like getting yourself in a mindset where you accept this and then coming up with good ideas, which will give you a couple tips on how to do that. But then like if you accept that and you kind of go through with it, you will realize after this video that like within a few minutes, maybe 10, 15 minutes, maybe a little bit more if you have patience, you can get a really working thing that other people can interact with and just exists where it didn't previously, which is very exciting.
And what makes Mocha different from all the other vibe coding tools out there that people might have used before?
Yeah. So the way I like to explain this is, so the models, these new like amazing models, which are like intelligence in a box, they're pushing the frontier of tech. It's amazing. They're pushing the future forward. And like Mocha or like the application layer is trying to bring everybody along. And so we're building Mocha specifically. We're trying to make it very accessible. We're trying to package like the models are good at coding now. That's a very powerful and new thing. And we're trying to package that and make it accessible to everybody. And I mean everybody. I know a lot of people say this, but then they're like, oh, you need a Superbase account. You need to know what GitHub is, which actually immediately kind of like alienates, I don't know, 80% of the population of the world. And so Mocha is trying to go after like the not people who are like terminally online on Twitter, but rather like people who are, I don't know, busy with their everyday lives. They might be like the own a small business. They might be a teacher, a nurse, a dentist, something else. They don't think of themselves as technologists at all. They might be curious like what they can do with AI. They've never thought that they could build something like it's completely outside of their open window that like I could build a website. And Mocha makes it actually so easy that it should open up opportunities for them. So we're building for them. So our bar is extremely high. We need it to just work. We need to assume you don't know what code is and never will. We barely assume, we assume you don't even know what a database is. You don't know what authentication means, like all of these things. So we have a big education role. In addition to building an app builder that works, we need to teach you how to build a product. And that's part of what we're doing, which is why I like to think that we're building a product building platform rather than an app builder. And yeah, lastly, like you won't be able to debug. So when things go wrong, like we have zero tolerance for bugs, by the way. And so even though it's an exciting place where things are today, the journey's not over. I think, I don't know, a year, 2 years from now, when these things really work to a level of correctness that is what we want, then we'll get really excited.
Got it. Got it. Cool. Yeah, I was actually just at the dentist today and was talking to him about AI. And I think like what you said resonates. I think for the average person, like doctor, a business owner, you need to give them a tool that's just like really easy to use that isn't gonna get complicated. And if people get stuck, they're just gonna stop. So I think
Yeah.
that resonates a lot. Cool.
You have a
So
beautiful smile. That's why the dentist explains it. I was wondering why you were
you did a
radiating.
great. Hey. So we're going to get tactical in this video. It's not just going to be us talking. We're going to try to give real value to everyone watching. And by the end of the video, you're going to see exactly what we're talking about and how to actually implement it. So maybe to start, Nick, we can come up with some ideas of maybe what to build. And then I know you're going to share your expertise and share your screen and show us how to actually do it.
Yeah, let's get into that. So we're actually touching upon one of the weirdest things about Mocha or this Apple space, which is like we tell people you could build anything, but that's super vague. And so people's immediate reaction is like, well, I don't know what I would build. I don't really have ideas. That's false. Everybody has ideas. It's a matter of like kind of prompting yourself in the right way or being in the right state of mind or having the right conversation. This is something I've learned building Mocha. And so I really encourage people to not build something generic because they've seen other people building it. Like, don't build the exact thing we're going to build today. Like, spend 10 minutes, like, thinking about, like, oh, what do I spend my time doing during my week? Like, who are my close friends, communities that I interact with? What could I build for that audience, etc.? What could I build for myself? Because everybody actually has some pretty cool ideas here. And so I'll give some examples. The designer on my team, Jacob, he built an app for a flashcard app for his kid to like learn Spanish. And it's really specific to his kid who like wants to learn Spanish, but like isn't really able to focus. So he gamified it. There's a bunch of rewards. It's a really fun, cool design. And so that's a very specific, he built it just for one person, which is something that I love using Mocha for. Or people build it for, actually, Jacob, my same designer, he has lots of good ideas. He built an app for his son's soccer coach and the soccer team so that they can all share an app where the coach can send private messages, feedback for the kids, like, hey, practice today, you did well on this, I'd like you to focus on this. And parents can upload pictures, and there's also the calendar. And so what I love about this is that like it's such a small niche like use case that I don't know, a Silicon Valley company, like there won't be a Meta or Google or Facebook or a Snapchat that's going to build that for people. It only becomes software that gets written once software propagates and long tail personal software becomes possible. So tools like Mocha enable this basically. And
Yeah.
so I love ideas like this. You can build like more traditional SaaS, like an avatar maker that takes Stripe payments to buy credits and like you can make some money online. People are building like different types of SaaS, like personal finance trackers, fitness trackers, all these things. And another use case I really like is small businesses. So they already have a business. So Mocha building a site for them would not be their main source of income or anything, but it just adds value to their day to day, either by building a very custom and easy website that's super, like, it's not stuck in a template engine like Squarespace or WordPress, or by building little tools for themselves. Like, oh, we have like a few employees and they're doing inventory management in this really specific way. And we use Mocha to build a little tool that makes it very easy for us to like exchange information and store it in the shared database.
Yeah.
And so those are some of the ideas that like people have. Today, I mean, we can talk about it. I had one idea. Seth and I were chatting before this that we thought might be a good idea to do for this video, which is it's a reminiscing idea. When I was young, when I was in school back in France, I had to come up with an idea I was in an entrepreneur class and I had to come up with an idea of like a business. And the idea I had, and I was prescient here. This was a long time ago, and I thought people were on their phones too much. This was 15 years ago. People were on their phones probably 90% less than today.
Yeah, we were probably at that point. Yeah.
Yeah, it was like, I don't know, 1 hour per day or something. Now
Yeah.
it's six. And I thought like it's hard to make friends when your neck is broken and you're looking at the screen. And people need friends. Friends are good. And so I was like, I think it would be cool if there was a way to make friends. I think it's weird to sit around a table and make friends. I think the easier way to make friends is to do an activity together and just passively develop a friendship. It's easier when you not look at each other, but you're just walking in the same direction to have a natural conversation. That's a Paul Graham trick. And so this idea was, it was called Live a Little. And you would join this club and you would say, I'm going to join an event this Saturday. You didn't really know what it was. It was nothing crazy. It was like a hike, a walk, maybe like a mini golf. And then someone organized it. And when you got there, you put your phone in a little basket and you had to commit to like 4 or 5 hours without a phone. Gasp. A bunch of people just realized, oh my God, I can't do this.
Yeah.
But that was
It's going to be a lot of friction for people.
a lot of friction, but like that was the idea. I thought it'd be cool to build like a prototype of this. It will actually show another thing that I love about Mocha, which is this idea I just pitched is not, we haven't thought about it. We haven't written a whole business plan. It's not super spec'd out. That's okay. We're going to use Mocha and like explore the idea maze, go back and forth, try different things and see where we land.
Perfect. Yeah, that sounds awesome. So if you want to share your screen and get into it, and I think we'll see as we start building, but I think we were also talking before we started recording about the power of like the database and having that so integrated into Mocha. And that's something, especially for people who are less technical, like that's such a blocker, I think. Like you start building an app, you build an MVP, but then if you can't integrate the back end, then it's not really usable and then you hit a block. So we'll see how well Mocha handles that, but in this video, but that's something
Yeah.
that I think is really important to note.
Thank God you're here, Seth. You're presenting Mocha even better than I could. I forgot to say this. This is actually like, because our bar is to make the app builder just work. Like the way we did this is we integrate everything. So our technical approach to app building is what we call it vertical integration. The perfect analogy is the iPhone. Apple decides that if they're going to make the best device possible and make it very accessible, they need to control everything, the hardware, the software, everything, the supply chain. And so Mocha is the same idea. We built a lot of internal stuff. We built all of the insides of Mocha ourselves. as opposed to some of our competitors took a different approach, which was like go to market faster by partnering with a third party provider for like the backend Superbase, or like a deploying partner for like hosting, etc. Mocha does everything yourself. And our philosophy is our customers should have everything. Mocha should be a one-stop shop. So the database is here. You can do authentication, which means logging in with email, Gmail, whatever it is. Down the line, we want to do like email sending. We want to do payments, like everything just built in, white labeled, and like one place to manage everything, which is, we'll get into it with this example, but like there's a way to
Yeah.
manage your data in Mocha that's really important.
Yeah. Yeah. Cool.
Cool. Okay, so what we're going to do is we're going to build an app called Live a Little. This was an idea I had when I was back in college, when I was doing an entrepreneur course. The idea is that people spend too much time on their phones. This was, by the way, like a long time ago, 15 years ago. God, I'm old. And they spend maybe an hour a day. Now it's a lot more, it's a lot worse. But I was already prescient, and I was like, oh, what if people could make friends by disconnecting from their phone for a day or a moment? And so this idea was called Live a Little. It was basically an events platform, and you would sign up as a user, and there would be events organized for you. You would maybe pay like a small fee to join the events, $30 or something. And then like you'd go on a Saturday, and importantly, you would have to put your phone in a bag, and then you'd have to like live a little and like talk to people and like actually do an event, a hike, a mini golf, something like this. And so we're going to build a version of this idea right now. And so I'm going to start on Mocha on the dashboard right here. I'm going to hit create app, and I'm going to start describing the basics of our idea. You could be more or less verbose here. We're going to keep it simple, and I'm going to describe kind of what I just described to you. And I'm going to focus on like the basics of the platform and also some of the concepts. Like there's an admin who can manage the events, and there's an end user who can participate in the events. And we're going to keep it simple, get a first pass, and then we'll iterate on the features from there. Does that sound good?
Yeah, that's perfect. Yeah.
Great. So we're building an app idea called Live a Little. It's a events platform. Okay, I'll keep it simple like that. So like users can sign up and register for events. These events take place once a week on Saturday afternoon. I don't know if matters, but this was my original idea, so I'm going to put it here. There's one event a week. This is because there's one event a week. So let's say this is especially let's pick a city. I'm in San Francisco right now, but at the time I was in Paris. So I'm going to say Paris. This is specifically in Paris. I'm putting this on purpose because I think the AI is going to give us some fun design tips because of this little detail.
Okay.
It's specifically in Paris.
What are some mistakes people make with the initial prompt, do you think?
So mistake is a strong word, because like the nice thing about these tools is it's very easy to like undo whenever you want. But I think typically asking for too much or being too specific or getting into the technologies. When you're using Mocha, you should focus on the outcomes you want, not the technologies you want. So the biggest mistake we see is people go to ChatGPT and they say, please write me a prompt for like an app builder to build an app that does X, Y, Z. They give ChatGPT a low precision prompt. ChatGPT gives them a rigorous one. They paste that into Mocha thinking like, this is a rigorous prompt. But like ChatGPT like invented a lot based on your lack of precision. So it's not great. It's just like extrapolating. And two, there's often technical details in there that you don't want. So it's saying like, please use Next.js and Superbase. And like, it's making all these technical decisions, which if you don't know how to evaluate them, how are you supposed to know that's a good idea? Right. And so like the whole point of Mocha is that it makes these decisions for you. And you should be focused much more on features and keeping the set of features you're asking for reasonable, like an MVP, a minimal viable product. Like I think 1 to 3 features is a good number. Get those working and then go from there. Typically, when you're building products, that's a really valuable lesson, by the way. You don't need a million bells and whistles. You need to understand what's valuable to your audience, focus on that, make sure you were right about that by giving the app to your audience and validating with them, and then only iterate. I did Y Combinator. They drill this through our brains, like build, show to users, evaluate, build. That's the only way you can build something people want.
Yeah. It's very meta with Mocha, and you're doing that, and then people are building their own things with what you built.
It's very meta. And actually, we would love to build some of these like product building education within the product. We haven't had time yet, but like I'm about to hit play. In the future, I would love this to be a brainstorm with an AI, which is a product building an AI that teaches you this. If you ask for too much, it like gently nudges you back, and you figure out together what you should be building. Like, who's the audience? Like, what is the number one piece of value we're trying to provide? Like, what are some
Totally.
styles you like? Let's mood board. And if you do all of that, you can get to like a much better MVP. We have some cool stuff in the pipeline coming to
Yeah,
solve for
I
this.
love that idea. Yeah.
So users can sign up and register for events. These events take place once a week on Saturday afternoon. There's one event a week. This is specifically in Paris. Let's keep it simple. And actually, I won't even say that. I'll just say events would typically be a walk or a mini golf or something like this. I will say this. Admins can log into the site and manage events. The
Okay.
only admin should be, and I'll say myself here, Nicholas at getmocha.com.
And
That
this
way
is,
Mocha
I
knows
guess, a
about
little,
this.
that's like a little hack if you're building with Mocha to do that kind of thing.
Most of the time when you're building an app, you want admin access. And as we'll see in a second, I'm going to play this, by the way. I'm going to
Yeah,
have it go build
let's
while we chat.
keep going. Yeah.
But like most of the time when you're building an app, you want a way to manage and admin your app. And Mocha allows you to do some things, like we'll see in a second. You can manage your data, your settings, but like you typically want admins that are really specific to your app. In this case, I want to manage events. I want to create events. I want to maybe send notifications to people. And so I always say if you're going to build an admin, which most people do, get it working quickly. It could be a pain point to get the authorization working. So I just get that working early when there's not too many features. And that way it's easy to evolve as you go.
Yeah.
Mocha, we're not going to get technical today, but Mocha is going to build like authorization middleware and make sure that the admin can do things and not other people. You want to make sure that works the way you want it to quite early.
Right.
Just
Right.
saves future headaches.
And how do you think about, as you're building the product of Mocha, like the models that are being used right now, like what's happening in the back end for people who are curious about that?
So, yeah. So you're giving us product ideas, and our job basically is to be very opinionated tech leads who are like, okay, if I was an engineer or tech lead with a team of engineers, and you were telling me you want this to be built, I have a lot of opinions because I have experience and I have just, I don't know, taste in engineering. And I think things should be a certain way. And I'm gonna take your ideas and like implement them in that way, or get the team to implement them that way. Actually, people often ask me like, "Hey, how is Mocha different than these others?" The big answer I always give, which is what I talked about earlier, is the audience. But there's another more technical answer, which is like we have a lot of opinions on how software should be built. We
Mhm.
care a lot about the insides of Mocha, what we think is good code, good architecture, good libraries, the good way to organize things. And so Mocha looks very different internally than like some of our competitors. I think it looks a lot nicer. Our team is like quite senior and has built some like pretty major products, and we're all kind of battle scarred and we have like opinions. So if you're technical, the analogy is like frameworks. They're like frameworks to build web apps. There's one called Ruby on Rails. It's a
Yes.
Ruby framework. There's one called Django. It's a Python framework. You don't need to know what these are. You just need to know like they're all kind of unique and they have their own opinions and people have their preference.
Yeah.
And so the app builders are kind of the same, and Mocha is like a highly opinionated one. So it's like Rails actually. It's like we have one way of doing things. We're super
Yes.
opinionated. We do not let you say like I want technology X, Y, or Z. We decide that. You tell us what you want in terms of outcomes, and we make sure we build it. And so right now the AI is thinking about your requests. It's doing a bunch of like, okay, this is what I think it should do. There's like a long thinking phase. Then there's a planning phase. Okay, given what I've thought of and given what the user wants, this is what I think we should do. And then there's a coding execution phase, which it's doing right now. And so it's writing a bunch of code in parallel. And
Yeah.
at the end, it does some reflection like, oh, did I do the right thing? It tests a few things. It's going in a loop and it's trying to achieve its own internal goals. We try to hide a lot of that from users because it's not particularly actionable. And so it's not very interesting. I can show you after a run what everything it did, which is a lot,
Yeah.
but like users really care about the outcome.
Right.
So we talked about it, but like ideally this happens in a few seconds. That way I don't have to show anything to the user and it just goes straight to it. And I think we will get there in a few years. But right now it takes minutes. So
Yeah.
people
I
have to
guess,
have a bit of
like, I
patience.
wonder, do you think in a few years we'll have this level of AI intelligence, but almost instant? And then maybe another, I guess, and probably the next level of intelligence that takes this long? Like, is it just going to go? At least we don't know what's
Yeah.
going to happen, but
We don't know exactly, but I'm very much an never bet against tech improving. It just always has been improving,
right.
always,
Yeah.
and always faster than you thought. Like the days are short, the days are long, but the years are short. It's kind of like applies to tech. Like
Yeah.
in a year, in like 5 years, so much more happens than you thought would. I'm particularly bullish on speed. So are
Yeah.
we going to get to ASI, AGI? These are interesting questions. I debate them. I don't know that LLMs today are like that smart that I'm super impressed. I don't know. I'm at the same time really impressed. And also I'm like, they're just like statistical machines. They're not like creative yet. They just like give you the statistically most creative thing. So
Right.
something would have to change, but I don't put it past us that we come up with a new architecture that would lead to that. I do think, however, that they'll get faster. It's
Yeah.
happening. Like they're getting faster quickly on the open source side. And there's a lot of money and human brain power going towards making these things faster and smarter. So don't bet against it. It's going to happen.
Yeah, that's really interesting. Like the speed is definitely happening. Are we going to get to AGI in 5 years? Who knows? But
Probably in like 50, I don't know, in five, the
yeah,
timeline's unclear, but speed within, I think Mocha, like in 2 years, we already have experiments internally with like faster models that are kind of not quite as good.
yeah,
And we don't think it's good enough. So we're not releasing it, but it's getting close. It's like 85% where we want it to be. And so
right.
like maybe by 2026, definitely by 2027, we'll be there.
Yeah, yeah. Which is going to be like we were saying, like a totally different product experience when it's instant and you can like make five changes in a minute.
I think it's completely different once it's instant. Don't get me wrong. This is insane what just
Yeah,
happened. This would have
right. And it's
taken,
still
I'm a
pretty fast.
programmer.
Like it's
I'm
just
a
like
pretty programmer.
yeah.
Yeah, this would have taken hours at the minimum, maybe days. And we just did it in 3 minutes. And you and I are complaining about that being long,
It's
but
like
like it's still,
you get so used to what and it's like a yeah, it's like a you're always looking for the next thing, but
humans adapt. So as soon as it's not new, it's like boring. And it's like,
yeah,
okay, these have existed for 6 months. Like, yeah, I get it. I could just do anything by snapping my fingers.
yeah,
We should be happy, but indeed we want more. We're going to get it.
yeah,
Okay. So this happened. So actually you were saying, so what happened? 10 changes were made, 9 files were written, the database was updated. You don't ever have to look at this. We put it here because if you're technical, you might want to look at it. But like this is all the code it wrote, just to give you an idea of the amount of work that was done. That's why it took time. A lot of work was done.
hmm
And in particular, it's created some database tables. So this is very unique to Mocha. There's a database that comes with your application. You have two databases. You have one in dev, which we're using now, and one in prod, which is like your production published website, which we'll get to in a second. And so here, there's a table called events and a table called registrations. And if I went to the data tab here, I can see these like tables. They're empty, obviously, but like when we create events, which we'll do in a second, we're gonna see data start populating here. So this is all built into Mocha. This is very much what we want Mocha to be. Like you don't need to go somewhere else, connect a third part. Like it should just all work and we'll be in the same place. That's
yeah,
our philosophy.
yeah.
Cool.
And
So
it didn't even ask like, is this how you want the database set up? Like it just knew based on the questions of based on the
yeah, we very much think that our audience will not have opinions on like database schemas. And so that we want to make, we ask some questions, like if the feature's unclear or if the audience is clear, but we don't ask you about technical things.
Yep.
So real quick, before we look at the app, I'll just talk briefly about the layout here. So Mocha, this window here is like a website within a website. It's running in an iframe. It's like our preview of our website. We call it the preview or the sandbox or dev, depending on how you want to call it. I'll call it preview for this talk and be consistent there. Developers would call this dev. It's an environment where we're playing around with it. And then we could publish it. We'll do that in a second. And then it would be called production, which is like the actual public web. But this is now a private app that only me am editing and only me can see. And as long as I don't decide to share it, it's private to me. As soon as I'm happy with it, I'll publish it and you, Seth, could try it out, anybody else.
Yep.
So we have the app here. We have our chat panel where we ask for any changes. What do you want to change? You could ignore code. We're going to remove this. You could today see and edit the code, but we don't want this to exist. This is like, it's a bit of a crutch because like things are not perfect and a lot of people are still technical, but
Yeah.
it should not be there.
Yeah.
And we have the settings where you could choose the name of your app, the description. You could choose like if other people can clone your app. It's like some very Mocha specific things. Assets, obviously there are no assets here, but we could upload logos and like give them to the model. So like whenever you have images or videos or fonts or anything, you could upload them here.
Is that the best?
Publish.
That the best way to upload it versus like in the chat or
It's the same thing. I would do it from the chat. Like
okay.
people typically don't come here unless they're trying to bulk delete assets. You could do most things from the chat here. You could just drag and drop or add your assets here. We'll go through it in a second.
Sure. Yeah.
Actually, we could do it right now. Oh, there's a fun thing. Mocha can generate images. People don't know this. So I'm going to
Yeah.
say like for the background, generate an image of forests and use that. I'm just going to do this as a bit of just to show you a fun thing Mocha can do, but Mocha can also use Nano Banana to make images in the background,
That's awesome.
which is cool. It's built in. We'll see what this looks like. And if we don't like it, we can revert.
Are you
So,
using Gemini 3 now, or are you still finding Anthropic better?
so at the time of the recording, we're very heavily Anthropic leaning
Yeah.
still, but we're I don't do it out of loyalty to Anthropic. I love Anthropic. They're really nice people. I love my Anthropic rep.
Yeah.
But like we talk to Google and we try Google all the time. We talk to OpenAI and we try OpenAI all the time. We care only about having the best model for our users. We have no allegiance to like a company. It's all about how much intelligence can we get at what speed.
Yeah.
But right now, Claude is the undisputed champion of coding models.
Yeah.
And so we do all of that.
Yeah. I mean, it's a good spot for you to be in where like ultimately, well, it's probably a hard challenge of always benchmarking and seeing like, okay, what's better? But
Yeah. It's also hard because wow, this conversation alone could be like its
we can,
podcast, like how to do evals. There's a lot of different things to look into. Like, does the code compile? Is the visuals good? Like, what about the interactions? Like, does it make unique things, or do they all look the same? You know, how fast did it go? There's a lot of questions, so it's just not at all obvious. Okay, so we have like the little image in the back of the forest, and we have our little app. It's not really styled yet. We'll get to that in a second. As I said, I'm just going to sign in here. So it popped up a little window. I'm going to pick that email address. And so because
and
this
just
was
for
the
people
app,
watching, by the way, it doesn't show the Gmail
yeah,
on recording, but it's happening in
it
the
opened
background.
up a little window with that Google, like which email do you want to use? And I had like I had a few Googles, and I picked Nicholas at Get Mocha, which remember is the one that I said should be the admin. So now I see this little admin. So actually I'm going to sign out and I'm going to sign in again. I'm going to pick a different email. This is my personal email. See, you see different logo, and notice how I don't have admin. So that's great. So we've kind of checked like what I was wanted to do. We've checked early that authentication works. I could log in and out. And there's a special user, which is the admin that can do things. So I'm going to log back with that user and let's check it out. So I'm in this admin user and I'm going to click on the admin, and here we go. Event management. So Mocha's already built like a bare bones kind of event management for you. Create your first event title, like walking and chatting. We will walk in the woods in fun, not creepy way. Location, Jardin du Luxembourg. That's a beautiful park in Paris. Let's do that.
It's
And
my favorite park in Paris. It's a great
oh,
park.
there you go. Actually, my school, Les Mines, was like on it. It's adjacent to it. It's like part of it.
It's
So
amazing.
I saw it for a long time. Time 2 p.m. to 00 p.m. and max participant. I'm going to leave empty. It's a big park. We could have a bunch of people there. So now I've created this event in the admin. Before we do anything else, I want to talk a bit about what happened here. So um, this might be obvious to some people, it might not be for others. Like we've now saved data in a database that is going to be like kind of saved forever. We've persisted data. So if I left and I came back, this data would be here because it's in the database. This is really important when you're building an app that has like a rich personalized experience. Think like Facebook or Pinterest. Like you want your Pinterest boards to be there every time you log back in. It's the same thing here. You want this event to exist whether I'm logged into the website or not. And for that, you need a database. Mocha comes with a database. This is kind of a really big deal. And so now when I go to like the data tab, I can see like the users. Here's my this is the admin one, and this is the non-admin one. And we have this event now walking and chatting. So it's saved in this database. If you don't know what a database is, literally the best analogy is like a sheet, like a Google spreadsheet, but it has a bunch of tables, and then there's tables, there's a bunch of records. So it's a bunch of spreadsheets. So I'm going to go back to the build phase. So this is really cool now. Now we have this event. If I log back out and I log in with or it's actually already there, but if I logged in as the user that's not the admin, I would be able to see the event. And I could click on the event and I could say register for event. So I'm doing that. So now I'm coming to this event. I'm going to go back to events. I'm going to log back out one more time. You don't have to do this, but like I'm just kind of making the point of like the difference between an admin and a non-admin user. And so now if we go in the database, you'll see that registrations. Okay. Hopefully you guys don't see my email addresses that I've put on here. If you do, please do not spam me. Please be nice. Be a nice internet citizen.
Look, I hope this video gets 1 million views, and that's a problem.
Yeah. we're gonna go viral. I'm gonna have to change my name. So we're seeing already like a lot of powerful things about Mocha. Like it's been a few minutes. we've been chatting while we've been doing this, and like we already have like an MVP of this idea. Like if I was now if I already meant it with this idea, I could publish it, and we'll do that in a second. I could show it to people. I could do some marketing offline. I could get people to register events. I could organize an event, and hurry up. We have the beginning of a business. We have a beginning of a new habit or a useful thing that happened in the world. So this is exactly what I think is so powerful about Mocha. Like most ideas have a minimum version, like which is actually not that hard, and Mocha can definitely build it for you in minutes that could get you off the ground. And
Yeah.
your job, I think, in the future is to scratch your head like, hey, what ideas do I actually have that I would love to exist or that I think I should do or that I have some passion for? Because I guarantee you have some, and it's a lot easier than you think to get them out there. That's exactly why we're building this. There's another analogy I really like here, which is our generation is used to getting a little rectangle out of our pockets and asking any question and getting the answer. We can answer any question because we have Google. It's a thing. It's a habit. We could just answer a question. But in the past, you couldn't answer a question. At best, you could get up from the dinner table and go look for a dictionary, maybe. It was a terrible way to answer any question. So people would debate questions endlessly. I think app building is going to become a global, like automatic behavior. Just like, you could take pictures of things with your phone. You'll be able to build apps. And I don't think we're there yet. So I don't think people's brains have the muscle built, but I think that you will, whether you like it or not. It's just going to be a thing that exists in the world, which is super
Yeah.
cool. And I think it'll kind of change the world in many ways, not just one. And we're trying to build towards that future.
Yeah, and that's what I like about this idea is it's like such a random thing, right? And now it exists. And nothing like it exists. This is like one of one base. I mean, like not exactly like this. And I think a lot of times people might think, oh, it's just a to-do list. It's just that, like when, yeah, there's other things like that. But I think what's cool with this example and what kind of goes to what you were saying is like all of the millions of unique ideas that people have for
Yeah.
themselves that just
And
would never exist otherwise.
yeah, it's an infinite amount because there's infinite people with infinite lives. So they're all unique. And so now we can build what we call personal software, which really means long tail, like very unique use case, particular to you kind of software. I think it's
Yeah.
super exciting.
Yeah.
So we've covered the database, we've covered auth. I want to cover publishing because that's really fun. And then we could also talk about design in a little bit. So
Yeah.
publishing, okay, we have a preview. This is like cool. I have like a little app that I can use myself, but how do I get Seth and others to use it? So you have to publish it to the public internet. So Mocha, in addition to being an app builder, is also an app hoster. So like we host a website for you. So we replaced like a website hosting solution. You could pick a subdomain. I could call this like live a little dot, and you get a infinite.mocha.app subdomains, but you could also connect if we bought livealittle.com or little.org or something, you could actually connect it really simply by going through this flow, typing it livealittle.com, clicking connect and just following the prompt. I don't have this domain, so I can't really do this right now, but you could do this and you could also buy a
Yeah.
domain directly on Mocha. And
And do
look
you
at
have
that.
to be on Mocha's like a paid plan to publish, or what does that look
You
like for
can
people?
publish one app on the free plan, and you
Okay.
can't pick a subdomain because we want to reserve these, like English or whatever language you have words,
Right.
for paid users. But you could publish one app with a random subdomain, and then you can publish 5 on the bronze, 15 on silver, and like 25 actually infinite on the gold. In practice,
Got it.
people don't publish more than like 10.
Yeah.
But yeah, typically it's a few.
Got it.
Actually, I just realized something that I think is a really cool thing about Mocha that we didn't even realize when we built Mocha. Because Mocha is powered by these super smart language models, you don't have to speak English in this box down here. You could speak your native language. And we have French users, Brazilian users, like Filipino users. We have users from we literally have like 85% of the countries of the world already
Yeah.
using Mocha, and we didn't have to do anything. They often just hit like translate this page to my language, and Google Chrome translates it, and then they type in their own language and it works, which is, I don't know. As someone who's translated websites and apps before in the past, which was a nightmare, internationalization is very hard. It's an amazing feature that we get that for free.
Is that so it'll respond in English, but they just translate their page basically. So
Actually, it should respond in your own language. It
I see.
actually it tends to think in your language. So we have a lot of Brazilian users, and like when I'm debugging Mocha, it's really hard because all of the thinking of the model happens in Brazilian. So I'm just spending my time translating things to understand the reasoning mistakes.
I
It's
wonder if
pretty funny.
there'll be ever be any like studies around like is it better at coding in specific languages if it's thinking in the
Yeah.
specific languages? I don't know.
there's
Yeah.
some conspiracy theories that it thinks better in Chinese or English, and I'm like, I don't think we know. Maybe like 3% or something, and it's more to
Right.
do with like the training set and that particular model, and it'll change on the next model. I don't think that there's any concrete evidence at this point in time.
Right. Yeah. 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 Because I know there are different words in different languages and things are, could
Yeah,
take, I don't know, but funny.
I want to
That
show.
is cool though.
Yeah, it's just funny to see the different languages. Also, it's funny to see people swear in different languages. People swear in this box. Don't swear to Mocha. It's doing its best, but people get frustrated and they swear.
I always try
Um,
to be nice to the AI as much as
me
I can.
too. I'm like a
Well,
please and
actually,
thank you guy.
sometimes I do get frustrated and I'm like, yeah, I
Yeah,
mean, you can get,
yeah. We work on this a lot. We work on like the sycophancy. So like Mocha's responding to you and they tend to be, so it can do things like it could take screenshots and it can compile. So it knows quite a bit about your app, but ultimately it doesn't know everything. So
Mhm.
it might think something's fine, but you could see it's broken. And so it's a very frustrating experience if you're using Mocha and it says like, hey, this works perfectly. And you're like, it obviously doesn't. I can see it. And so we get some frustrated users, but we're working on that and it's getting better and better.
How do you think about like, actually, maybe if you want to give it another prompt and then we can talk about, I have another
Yeah.
question. Yeah.
Yeah, I want to make it design stuff. So it's like
Okay.
this all looks great, but the design is a little simple. Please polish it up and make it look more like. So typically, I give example apps. So two tips for design: either you know what you're doing and you say like neo brutalist site or something, which is
Yeah.
very insider, and I don't expect you to know, or you go to Pinterest.com or Dribbble.com and you type like a web design inspiration, and you go and look at things and you see if there's anything that you like. And then you just take a screenshot and you give that to Mocha. And Mocha's like models have a visual analysis mode and they're very good at it. So this one's pretty cool and kind of like the right vibe.
Yeah.
So I just wanted the first travel thing. Actually, I don't want all of
And then it
this.
just gets the vibe of the design and
It's going to
gives it
get the
good
vibe. You can
inspiration.
get as specific as you want. You could be like, this is my color palette. These are my fonts, or I just want a screenshot. I don't want a whole video. Or you could say like, I like apple.com. We could do that actually. We could be like, make it look more like it was designed by Apple, minimalist and clean. So while it's working, we can chat, but it's going to go and do this. Also, at any point, you can undo your changes, by the way. So this is a cheap thing to try. You could try different variations of design and come back and be like, I don't like any of them. I like the original one. I want a different one. But most people don't design their Mocha apps. And like with just a few words, you could do so much better. So we're building, actually, we're going to launch this very soon. Might be live once you view this video. We're launching
Uh-huh.
a little mood board experience where in the plus button, you're going to be able to see like 6 or 7 different theme examples. And if you like them, we're going to prompt Mocha and help you prompt Mocha, teach you that with a little bit of text and a screenshot, you can go a long way.
I like that idea. Yeah, there's so much you can do on like the product design of Mocha to help people. Even one prompt that I found that like works surprisingly well is like, this looks too much like an AI design. Make it look unique and not AI
Yeah.
design. And then
Yeah.
that was
Uh,
really quick. That was a quick update.
It's
Okay.
still working, but it's already doing
Oh,
some
I
things
see.
quickly.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Got
It's
it.
still
Got it.
working.
So,
Changes can take, yeah.
oh, go ahead.
Changes can take like 10 seconds. Changes can be longer. Something that we don't do and we don't tell people is that there's cache. So caching is a computer science concept. It's a memory that's like not infinite, but is very quick to access. So if you've accessed something recently, you put it in cache. It's why if you refresh your profile on Facebook, it goes very fast. But if you open it after 3 weeks, it might be a little bit slower. Your conversation has caching mechanisms. So if you keep building, things stay very fast. But if you leave it alone and come back 15 minutes later, it'll be much slower. And this is a tip. We haven't really put anything in the UI about this. We might put a little timer. It's a 5-minute cache on Anthropic. And
I
so if
see.
you just keep, and this is true of most app builders and most AI tools, people don't know this. If you keep using them quickly, you will get a faster usage because everything is cached as opposed to
Mhm.
rebuilding it.
Right. That
Uh,
makes sense.
so here we go. It's kind of like, this
It
looks,
looks way cleaner, way
I
cleaner.
like it. It looks cleaner. I prefer thing. I like this little. By the way, while we're here, I can show you something else. We have this, what we call a design direct edit mode, where you could just directly select things and change the copy without going through AI. Weekly, I'm just going to put the French word because I don't have information. And so see, it changed it right there. This is really simple, but we're working on like what we call contextual editing, which is you could click anywhere and like basically a little version of this is going to pop up and you could make like
Mm.
specific changes. It's pretty, we're working on it and we're working on this because at Mocha, we don't think that like left panel chat, right panel preview is the best UX for all changes. It's great for some
Yeah.
changes, but for other changes, you want to point. Like if you were working with a human, you'd be like, this doesn't look good. And like, I want to
Yeah.
work on this section or like, I want a 3-column layout. It's hard to describe layouts in text, but it's really easy to draw them. So there's a lot of UXs that we're exploring. The exciting thing to note here is that the future is going to, these things are just going to keep getting better and better because we have tons of ideas.
Yeah. 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 I like that a lot.
But yeah, this all looks really nice. I wish it had an image. We could say like generate an image. Oh, I kind of wanted to generate an image for each of the events, but that's like an advanced AI feature. I'd have to go and get a Gemini API key, which I don't want to do for this demo. But we could have it like every time you create an event, it generates an image.
If you do want to do like let's say someone did want to do it like do that, like it would generate an image each time. Is that
Yeah,
something Mocha would basically build the API connection? It would ask you for the
yeah.
API key
Well,
and then you
let's walk through it then. I
okay,
want to
cool. Yeah.
add
Could be
a button in the admin on an event that will generate an image based on the metadata that we know of the event. So I'm going to say this and let's see what you'll see what it does. It should choose right now we default to OpenAI, but we're actually adding Gemini. So right now I think it's going to default to OpenAI because we hinted
yeah.
strongly to do this because OpenAI just typically it's a strong choice. If you
Yeah.
don't know what to do with AI, use OpenAI models. They have a good image model. They have good text models. They have good audio models. They have good everything. And so
Yes.
they're like a really strong choice. If you know what you're doing, like at this point in time, there's a great Google image model. I don't know if it'll be true forever, but like right now that's true.
Yeah.
There's a good 11 labs like text to speech model, but these things change. So my recommendation to like people that aren't like plugged into the AI scene, which is fine, do not feel bad. Just use OpenAI. It's a great option. It's
Yep.
always going to be a great option. They're very good at AI. They're very good at products. So
Yeah.
let's see
I,
what
I
it
agree.
does.
So one thing that I was thinking about with like AI app building and like debugging and testing, which was I was thought it was based off something you were saying earlier. Are you thinking about like browser use or having the AI like actually test it or the and like go through features or and you have to enter your API key?
Yeah,
But
I can answer your question, or we can go through the flow. Which do you prefer?
let's go through the flow and then
Okay,
we'll leave
so
people with a
let's
cliffhanger.
going
From
through the flow. So this is an important thing that's going on. So Mocha is doing something using an API. What's an API? An API is a complicated concept. It's an application programmatic interface. You don't need to know that really. It means we're going to go talk to another service that's doing something useful. In this case, we're going to talk to Google, who's doing like AI stuff. Mocha tries to do as many of these things for you, but we don't generate images. That's outside of our scope. So in this case, we need to go get an API key. So it's clearly asking for a nano banana API key. So I decided on Google. Clearly the model has gotten like pretty, maybe Anthropic is favoring Google right now. So I have one of these. I'm going to add it. I'll let this be visible and I'll just make
One thing
sure it
that I
has
like is you have
no budget.
there's a walkthrough button that I've used before that Mocha helps you
Yeah.
do it if you aren't sure, which
So I had one, but if I didn't have it, we could have just clicked walkthrough. I should have shown that actually. And it just tells you exactly where to go, how to get the key, paste it, etc. So
and
it's
then
created this. So let's go to
yeah.
the admin. Let's go. And here, there's a button. I think this is what it is. Generate image. And failed to generate image. That's not good. Okay, so there's a bug. This is a good
Yeah.
opportunity to try and debug things.
I feel like API calls are like the most common thing that I see
The
that
most common thing. So, okay, what did I just do? I just opened logs. The first thing you could do is you could say like, when I click the image generation, I see this error.
I
Actually,
actually
this
don't
should,
see an error on my I think the screen maybe it's a
oh, I
conflict or
see
something.
like an alert in the browser and the alert
Oh,
is
I see a
saying,
browser.
is
Yeah.
saying failed to generate image. I'm going to click. I'm going to do this. When something's not behaving, you can open the logs with this command B. You don't need to understand them. Just need to understand colors. Oh, there's a bunch of red. That's a bad color. And whenever there's red, we give you this button, fix with AI. I'm going to just briefly look. Open SSL. Doesn't recognize. I don't know what's going on here. I don't have time to debug it. So I think it might have messed up the nano banana. I'm going to do something real quick, which is nano banana Gemini getting started. This is a good tip.
Yeah.
Start with nano banana. Oh, these people are hacking keywords. Wow. Google, you guys
What
need to
were
do.
the were well just like an affiliate link or something?
Yeah. So here we go. I'm just looking for like a very basic like nano banana quick
Yeah.
start. But this is Gemini. Where's nano banana? Here we go. Nano banana pro image generation slash image. Which one is the pro? It's not flash. I think it's, here we go. I think this is what we want. Generate content. Okay, I don't really understand any of this. I'm not, sorry, I do understand it. I know what I'm doing, but I don't need to. I'm just copying this. Okay, little tip for Mocha. You copy this and you could either paste it directly here, or a tick I like to do is I put it in this custom knowledge, which is just going to be
Mm,
sent to the AI. And I say like, these are instructions to from Google to
that's
use image generation.
really smart because I always just put it in the chat. But yeah, if I just
I
put it
like
in
this because it can. We're
intelligence
gonna
to have,
reuse it while we're debugging. I wish Mocha did this for you, but like this is a hack I use, which is like put it in here while you're debugging and then remove it later.
yeah,
Because I think it. I don't think it called the code right. So I'm gonna do save, and I'm gonna say like the image generation with nano banana isn't working. Check the example code and fix. And I say please, in case one day our AI overlords uh, come back and look at all of our chats.
yeah.
So it's going to work on that. Let's see if that fixes it.
So that was the that you think it just didn't write the right API call,
I have a
basically.
hypothesis here. I could have tried. Before I answer, I'm going to say something. App builders and working with AI is easy to learn and hard to master. That's why people get really frustrated. Like it could be really hard sometimes to fix seemingly easy things. You
Yeah,
get better at it with experience. And so just keep trying, keep doing things and trying things and you will get better. Like you need to have a little bit of persistence because even though we're trying to make these things super easy, the reality is they're not perfect yet. And AI is weirdly good at some things and weirdly bad at other things. Okay, so that being said, I've learned that it's better for me to proactively like lead it somewhere than be like things aren't working and then it kind of spins its wheels. And so if
yeah,
I have what I think is a good hypothesis, in this case, I think it wrote the code wrong to talk to Gemini. And so now I'm going to have it write it again. I think that might be, we'll see, but I think that might be more effective than saying like it's not working, which is vague.
yeah,
Another trick you can do is you can click discuss mode here and you can just have a conversation. Be like, hey, what do you think is wrong? It's not working. The AI will spend a lot more time thinking. And then you could be like, you could turn it off and be like, given
yeah,
everything we just discussed, please fix it, which is similar to what we just did.
yeah,
Um,
yeah. So it's no worries. Yeah, I do the same thing, I think. And I find that like it is common that the model might just not have the right latest API mod code or something like that.
yeah. In
Let's
particular, so that's why I had this hypothesis. When I'm using something recent, like a model that came out 2 months ago,
yes.
I'm like, the AI might not know about it because it's pretty modern. The good rule of thumb is AIs know a lot about things that are old, like there's been around the web for 10 years, and it knows very little about what happened in the past 6 months.
Yeah, yeah. So let's see if this works.
Oh, still,
Oh,
still not working for me, but I'm gonna try. I'm gonna refresh. I'm getting the same error. Show logs, API error, invalid argument. This looks better. Status invalid argument, but it doesn't say what the argument is. I'm gonna do fix with AI. Let's see if this works.
yeah. How at Mocha, like I guess everything's a prioritization of like what you want to do, but like how do you think about and then also stick around 'cause we're gonna get to that question about debugging later on. But this is a different question. Like, is like adding an integration to Gemini something that you would do where like then people pay you credits for that or that kind of thing? Or is it
Yeah,
more like the or you'd rather make it so like this integration just works more smoothly, or how do you think about that?
I we we don't want to get critics. We very much think it's our job. Like this not working. It seems like it was working and then it didn't. Maybe it did work. We very much want these things to work for the user. So like we write, our agent has access to a bunch of documentation. As I
I
said, we're
see.
like, use this technology for this, use OpenAI for that. And we write documentation specifically for it, for all of these, but it takes a lot of time. Um,
Yes.
so some people use MCP or some other tools and they're like, oh, you could do anything. But in practice, those documentations are full of mistakes. And so we don't like that. So
Yeah.
at Mocha, we have a short list of technologies that we spend time when we like bring the integration into Mocha by writing document, testing it out, making sure we can have it work. And so we haven't done it for Nano Banana, which is why I'm doing all of this like kung fu. But
Yeah.
as soon as we've integrated it, which by the way is in like a week or two, it's on my list to do this. Then you will just be like, I want to do image generation, and it will work like 98 times out of
Yeah.
100, like enough that it doesn't matter anymore. And so we want to do this for as many integrations and technologies as possible. I'm gonna try it one last time, but I don't know what's going on. Gemini documentation. Pro banana. This is simpler, so I'm gonna try one last thing. I'm gonna go back in my knowledge and I'm gonna paste like a simpler piece of code. Like I just took
Okay.
this little one from like Nano Banana. I was previously copying this longer one. Sorry, I was pasting this longer one, and I don't know why it's longer, which is suspicious. So I like simple and easy. Let's make it easy, make it work, and then go. And then I'm gonna do this, and I'm gonna do another trick, which is I'm gonna go all the way back to this, and I'm gonna kill it. I'm gonna go to the version before it, restore. So forget about everything we just did. This is actually a really good trick with app builders.
Yeah, that
AI
is.
tends to dig holes for itself. So if it does, it's okay. It happens. Just like backtrack, restore previous version, and do it again. And so see if it can do it the second time. In this case,
Right.
we gave it more information too. So hopefully this is gonna work better. We'll see. But this is like I don't know. I wish it worked the first time and make for a better demo, but in practice, this is what it's like. Easy things and some things it just works. Integrating with third parties is a little bit of a mountain that you need to sometimes climb up and down.
Yeah, definitely. And I think it's
And
helpful to see
this is good.
it's helpful to see what the process is and even this debugging process of how you do that. Because
Yeah.
it's gonna if you're building something, like this is gonna happen. It's not gonna go perfectly. Almost guaranteed.
Mm-hmm. We're building Mocha, right? We have a team of people that have been building for years, and we use AI a lot, and things break a lot, and we have to fix them. It's just like this is just how it is.
Yeah.
If you could just be like, build me $1 billion company and like, please make no mistakes and walk away. If it worked, the world would be very different. We're not quite there. We might be there in a couple of years. We're not
Yeah.
quite there. I think it's kind of a good thing. By the way, this is a philosophical thing we do while building Mocha. We're not trying to replace the humans. So some of our competitors are trying to make it so that you could say an idea and like leave for 2 hours and come back and the agents worked a ton. I don't like that. Philosophically, I still want the human to be part of the process of creation. I think it's just very empowering and cool to build things. It's like you want to take the photo you post on Instagram. You don't want it to generate a fake photo of you. It would just be a different app. It'd be a different experience. There's something about the act of creation. And I want very much Mocha to be like an act of creation that you are co-doing with the AI.
Yeah. Yeah. I agree with that.
So yeah, a lot of our philosophy is like, how can we bring in the human? How can their ideas shine through? We have a lot of new product experiences where the AI is talking with you a lot more proactively
Mm.
in such a way that you're more involved. Cool. It's finished. Minute 37. Walking and chatting. I'm just going to refresh just in case. Generate image. It's taking a second, which makes sense.
That's a good sign.
Generating. It's a good
Definitely.
sign. Generating. Haha.
There we go.
There we go. We got that. So I
That's
made an
awesome.
image which looks like it was in the Jardin Luxembourg. It's a win for persistence right here. Look at that. Beautiful.
Was this Pro or Nano Banana
This
Pro
looks
or Nano?
great. Let's review it. Let's look for Nano Gemini Flash
A
image. This
flash
is not
image.
even the Pro, and it's so dude. We
Wow.
were using the Flash before Pro, and it was great. It's a great model.
That's amazing.
Google
Yeah.
image
Yeah.
models are absolutely insane.
I agree. Yeah. Actually, I have used Flash before too. It's really impressive.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, Pro is insane. Pro is like,
Pro
it's
is
insane.
bonkers, but actually Flash was already good at like this, like a human realistic picture. Flash was already good
Yeah.
at. Pro is particularly good at understanding words and context and also putting words and diagrams, so, which is a lot of the
Yes.
examples.
Yes.
Um,
Yeah.
but I don't know what the next one is going to be. I don't know. We live in crazy times. Image models in particular and blow my mind
Yeah.
because
And
I'm a
video.
photographer. I like graphic art and stuff. Things that used to be so hard are so easy now. It changes everything.
Yeah. I have this theory that ultimately, like, even if AI is able to make something just as good as a human, if you as a human know that another human did
Yeah.
it, I think we're going to care about the human
Yeah.
version and not care about the AI version.
I agree with nearly everything, but not everything. I think there's a place for AI art, but you'll care about it differently. Like, first of all, your bar will be higher. Oh, this was made with
Yeah.
AI. For me to be impressed, it needs to be like way more impressive. But I also think that there's something that if a human created it, it's like, I don't know, we're organic creatures that empathize with each other, and no AI can take that away.
Yeah.
If there's something about the human condition, if in the R you made because something inside of you made you make it and it made you feel some way. And then somehow I felt the same way and we connect on that. It's about the connection. It's not about the art. And so like,
Yeah.
that's like, it's very important that you made it in that role.
Yeah.
So yeah, I agree with that.
Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah.
So we've covered a lot of ground. So we have a published site. It's live on the internet, livealittle.mocha.app. And let me cover something very
That's
important.
actually super important.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Actually, we haven't published in a minute, so this was the old version. But notice that we don't have any events. This is because the event I made here was made in the preview. This environment that we see here is actually like a completely separate environment. It's purposefully a separate environment. You're meant to be able to do whatever you want to it, break it, try different things, restore, roll back, try, change the design. And only when you're happy do you want to publish. So if your app was live, you would not want, while people are using it, that your changes in Mocha are changing it. That would be a terrible experience. So it's important that you control when you publish. And so the database is separate for that reason. Like actually the whole environment is separate for that reason, for security reasons and for like to give you a place to make changes. It's safe. So I just published. So this is a live website. We have the new design, but we do not have the event. We sign in and I would have to create in the admin an event again, create, and we'd call this like, what should we do in Paris? We could do Bord de Seine, walk on the Bord de Seine, which is the river going through Paris. And that should be capitalized. We're going to walk and eat croissant.
So did you
Uh,
grow up in Paris?
I grew up in Paris. Yeah, yeah. My mother's British, so you can't hear the. I could speak. I could speak with my French
No,
accent if you think it would
it's
have
very
views.
confusing because you spoke French perfectly and you have a British accent.
Yeah, I'm French and British. I have two nationalities, and but actually I consider myself American because I love America and I've moved here a long time ago, and I'm very Americanized by this point.
Awesome.
So
Very
3
multinational.
p.m. Yeah, I believe home is people, not places,
Yeah.
and we're gonna make it unlimited. I want to try the image generation, so I was giving it some information.
Yeah.
Let's try it in prod.
And then another cool, like just thinking, and this is how you can iterate with Mocha is like, oh, maybe you say, oh, I want it to automatically generate the image when we create the
Yeah,
event and you wouldn't even
yeah.
have to press the button. So there's things
Exactly. So
also
look at that.
good.
You could totally do that. You could change. So we've been talking a lot, so we've actually not been building that much. But we could have been trying different ways to do all of this. Like maybe when I create an event, it suggests things. Maybe you don't like the specific pickers. Maybe when I create an event, I should be able to make it recurring. We haven't even started to talk about like the profile for like a user. Like that's probably what I would work on next. It's like, okay, if I'm a non-admin and I log in, I want to have a little profile with like people I've met and they have exchanged their contact info with. Maybe there's a messaging section. Maybe there's like a ratings for the events. There's all kinds of things we could build. There's no limit to what you could do, but you notice how we built the core loop and the core value like first. And I always recommend this. This is like a very important tip. What we built here is super simple, but this could go live and this could have value. This could be like a thing where people live a little and meet and eat croissants and everything. And that's awesome. And if we spend too much time like building all the features and I try and then we got frustrated because it wasn't working or like everything wasn't perfect, we'd end up not publishing and not validating that it's actually a good idea. So
Yeah.
I really, even though I'm building like a tool to build websites, I actually encourage you to like make things live, like push to prod, publish, share it with your friends, have people use it or your family. Start by building an app that you and your family use, like a private social media that like Mark Zuckerberg doesn't see and know about, where you could upload pictures of your friends. Like do something small and fun and like build some confidence and then do it again and then expand on it because you could do it amazing things, but it's incremental.
Totally. Yeah. I definitely agree with that. Can people like put a Stripe, like integrate Stripe and get paid through Mocha, or is that not necessarily the use case right now?
Yeah, so you totally can. People have done it. Just like we went through the flow, it will ask you for the Stripe API key. And if you know what you're doing, you could get it all right. Now, this is a bit, what we need to do in the short term, what we need to do is build very concrete guides for this. Because if you do it wrong, money's involved. Getting it wrong is very bad. It's not like generating an image failure, right? If you took money and like the transaction didn't work on your site, that'd be a very bad situation.
Yeah.
But it's very possible. People are doing it today. People are making money with their Mocha sites. They typically know what they're doing. They've done it before, or they know Stripe. Here's the challenge. You need to first go into Stripe, create an organization, put in your tax information, then create what's called Stripe products and then Stripe prices. And these are all complicated concepts. So
Yes.
we're very torn at Mocha because remember who our user is. We don't expect them to know all of this, or even we don't want them to have to learn all of this. So we have designs for a white labeled Stripe integration. We know we can do this, like we spec'd it out. There's a thing called Stripe Connect. We'll do it all for you, basically. So
I
there'll be
see.
an experience that's coming in. It's probably going to take us a few months still. We're working on it, but it'll be actually supported natively. Like you will come in, we will ask you a few questions about what the products are or your banking information. Like maybe we redirect you to Stripe to fill in some KYC forms that you have to do over there. But we do as much as we can for you. And we restrict the possibilities of how to use Stripe because payments can get infinitely complex. Oh, what if someone
Yeah.
cancels? Does it cancel right now or at the end of the bidding period? What if we want to do upgrades, downgrades? What if they cancel and then we subscribe? What happens to the data? There's all these edge cases that you don't think of until you do it that make subscriptions really hard. So what I suggest is if you're going to do Stripe, first of all, ping us and we'll help you. We'll send you some guides to some in our docs and we're going to have some on our YouTube channel soon. Secondly, start simple, just like we did here. Build like a one-time checkout. Like don't do a recurring subscription. Start with maybe you buy credits by spending $30 and it gives you 100 credits. And then you have your website deal with credits. Much easier than dealing with dollars. Use a thing called Stripe checkout page where they do the whole pricing page for you. They do the whole, like much more is happening on Stripe, much less on Mocha. So all of this to say, unfortunately, it's a pretty bad answer, as you can tell. But like, I also think nobody does this well. Like many people are like, we integrate with Stripe, but they don't. It's a very shallow integration, which actually leads to lots of issues. So I'm not really claiming that we do. I'm saying that it's possible. You need to be knowing what you're doing. And if you do, start simple. And I will say in a few months, we're going to actually natively deeply integrate with Stripe. And just like auth, like the login, it'll just work.
Yeah.
And that's our whole philosophy is like, make it just work. And until we do, don't really claim that we have an integration. Even though it's possible, it's like hard.
Yeah. No, it makes complete sense. And I agree with you. No, like it's unfortunately just not straightforward to add payments. Like it's not impossible by any means. And anyone watching this video, if you really wanted to do it, you could figure out how to do it. But
Yeah.
it's not going to be painless. And especially with subscriptions, it's going to be more complicated. It just
Yeah.
because there's just more that goes into it. But I like the idea of using Stripe Connect. I never thought about that from like
Yeah.
an app companies, like from your perspective, but that makes complete sense. And that's gonna
My biggest piece of advice is don't do subscriptions. They're so hard. Like start without. If you have an idea that has value and people will actually pay for it, then they will pay even if it's a one-time payment. They'll even pay every month, even though it's tedious. Prove that out. And once they do, then start working on subscriptions. Just build incrementally.
Yeah, unless you're unless you're technical and know what you're doing, then
Yeah.
don't do it. I
But
agree.
if you're technical and know what you're doing, you're probably not using Mocha. We're not building Mocha for you, and we have some developers using it. But if you're technical, like they're great tools. Use Casa,
You
use
probably are
Code.
using Cursor if you're like
Yeah,
yeah,
as you should. Yeah, yeah.
totally. So, well, maybe real quick, since I asked it earlier, something that I think is cool and like that, for example, like Google Anti-Gravity, they're added like a browser. The agent uses the browser to like debug and like I feel like so much of AI coding is like, okay, you build a feature, you test it. You build a feature, you test it. Like, is there any like autonomous like how are you thinking about that? I feel like there's like
Yeah.
a million things you could be doing, so it's hard
Yeah.
to probably decide, but I'm curious.
We are specifically not doing that right now. We looked into it. We wrote some prototypes. It's incredibly clunky because no models actually do video as input. So they all do screenshots. So you need to like give them the information, but they, unlike you, don't see a video. They see like a bunch of screenshots or they see a bunch of data about where the mouse is and where the buttons are and the DOM, both of which don't work that well. So the windsurf thing is a cool pitch, but it doesn't work that well in my experience.
Yeah,
And in
I
my
actually
opinion.
haven't used it more than
Yeah.
just a
So if you
prototype.
use it, there's a few people pitching things. There's a lot of salesmen right now. It's just not it's a great idea. It just doesn't work that well. And so we're very interested in things that have a good product experience because UX is like a really important thing for us. And so
Yeah.
right now that's just not good. especially since humans are just particularly good at things like clicking a drop down on a button and feeling that the experience is somehow,
Yes.
it could be really subtle. It could be a flicker. It could be like a jitter. It could be like a flash. And these are things that you could easily miss. And so
Yeah.
you could be, as some of our competitors are doing this, and it sounds really cool and futuristic, but in practice, they miss nearly everything and they spend tons of your tokens doing it. So I just
Right.
don't want to do that to my customers. Down the line, though, it makes tons of sense, especially if models get cheaper and if they can take video input. I'm really into that.
Right.
But
Right.
it's not a priority for us because there's so many things I want to build. Building a startup is all about deciding what not to do. So that's one
Yeah.
of the things we're not doing.
Yeah.
We're much more interested in the full product experience. So right now, and especially what you saw we covered today, what Mocha is really great at today is the building phase. But we want to expand what Mocha is useful for, like ahead and afterwards. So ahead would be like you have an idea, let's do a product brainstorm, spec it all out, create like what's called a PRD, a product requirements doc. That's nice
Yep.
and simple, and then use that as like a through line map while we're building together. That's very interesting because part of what we think our job is not only to build products with people, but to teach them how to build products. And so we can really bake some opinions into like how to build a product and teach them and make them better building products, which is like a very big deal. It up levels them and it up levels the outcome. That's the ahead of time. And then like we like to call it the post-publish lifecycle. You've published a website. Great. Now what? We don't do enough. I want to do so much more. I would like you, when you log into Mocha, to have your production dashboard with your analytics and your production use cases. And we have agents monitoring your live websites to see if there were errors. So I don't want to do like testing, like we said in dev too much, because you can do that. But testing
Yeah.
and production is really high value. You could have agents like basically monitoring the logs and being like, this error seems to be happening a lot. We think we
Mhm.
can fix it. Click here if you want to
Yeah.
fix it. And so you could have all of these like what I call a continuous learning machine and like self-improving products. So Mocha eventually is going to be a place where you build, ship, and then self-improve your product, which is awesome.
Yeah.
And so I'm much more interested in that than in going super nerdy on like their stuff, the windsurf and Casa people are
Yeah.
doing. Their space is the IDE. We're not contained like that. We're trying to solve a problem, which is like go from idea to like value in the world. And so I'd rather go further on the wider on that problem than deeper on just like the coding agent. We're not a coding agent company.
Are more people using Mocha for like apps like this where there's like off and it's an app that does something versus maybe a website which could do something and has a form and collects data, but like more of a
Yeah.
traditional website. So like, are people using Mocha instead of Squarespace, for example, in
Yeah.
addition to building these new things?
People are using it for both, but we're much more focused on the people using it for what we call useful software. So
Yes.
actually, before we launched databases, Mocha existed. We didn't consider it complete, but it existed. And as soon as we launched databases, we saw our graphs go exponential. Like our growth is really good right now and super exciting. The reason is we're very focused on helping people build useful software. It's literally on the walls of my company. I'm like, why are we here? We want to help people build useful stuff, not
Yeah.
pretty stuff. And so we can do pretty. We know how. We've tried it. We'll get to it later again. It's nice. It's a nice to have. But like really what matters is building useful things. We're ruthlessly focused on this. So even though we have a lot of people building websites, if they don't do like useful things like an intake form or custom like loyalty program or messaging with your customers, then you could do it with Mocha. But like why? You could easily use like why would you pay for a premium, like really complicated product like Mocha when you could just use a template on Squarespace or Wix?
Right. Right.
So we're just like, we're trying to push forward what we can do with tech more than just like static websites. You
Yeah.
can, if you have a Mocha account, you might as well make your personal blog with it and stuff because you can, but it's not the majority of our use cases. And more importantly, it's not what we're optimizing for.
Yeah. That makes complete sense. I think that like, right. You can do, I mean, it's cool that you can make websites with AI and I think there are uses for that, but it's not like as much of a jump in value compared to building useful software
Yeah.
where you can do
And
that
if we
with
do
the
the latter, we get the former for free. So it's like, why focus on it when
right.
we can do the latter?
Totally. And I think where it gets interesting with the latter, okay, you're building a dentist website. Like, okay, now you're adding a form. Now you're building some custom automations around it. Like that's where it starts to, I think,
Yeah.
get really interesting. Uh,
Also, I mean, to talk startups a little bit, there's such a thing as founder product fit. And so like I'm a developer, my CTO is a developer. What we're really good at is building. I've worked on Pinterest. I've worked on like self-driving cars, which is AI, but like I'm good at software. That's what I'm good at. And so we're building Mocha because we have really strong opinions on how to build an app well. And we actually, if we thought the competition was doing a great job, we probably wouldn't be doing this. But we looked at them and we downloaded the apps and we looked on the inside and we're like, wow, this is disgusting. This is just like, I'm not going to name names, but it's just like really bad, tasteless engineering. And I think that's abominable is too strong, but it's like it's pretty bad because non-technical people are trusting you, the expert, to then guide the AI to build an app for you. If you are not an expert or you're guiding the AI poorly, the original customer has no idea. And so they're kind of getting a crap product without really knowing. And I really don't like that. So one of the like, as an engineer, like one of my missions is to make sure that like we're getting AI to write good code and good apps that can scale well, have more correct. It should show up in the product. Like it'll just have less bugs. It can do harder things, etc. But there's something about also the pursuit of craft and elegance and just nice
Yeah.
insides. And we're after this at Mocha. So back to your original question, if I was building a static websites builder, I would care about design more. So if I was a designer, maybe that would make sense. If I was a designer building an app builder, maybe I should go full on design. But I'm an engineer, so I'm going more on the useful, like full stack problems.
Yeah. No, makes complete sense. Well, I think that we could probably talk for about 4 hours about this and it would just keep going on and on. So maybe we'll do another one in the future,
Yeah,
especially with some of these additional features that you talked about. There's so much that I think is coming in the pipeline that would be cool to demo for people.
definitely. Let us know in the comments if you want us to add more features to this app and come back and do that. Or like if there are other apps you'd like to see us build, like we will happily do it. It'd be fun.
Awesome. All right. Well, thanks, Nick.
Thanks, Jeff.